Hi everyone, I'm back with another reading. It's been quite a while since I did the last one, but things have been very intense. Going through a journey of self-rediscovery, it seems. It's like no matter how deep you go, it can always go deeper. And it echoes the themes with a lot of readings I've done and a lot of concepts that come up with people that I connect with about all of us kind of going through this process of individual discovery and development, and that altogether that kind of leads to a new paradigm, a new earth. And I want to talk a little bit about what that means and what that has come up with this specific spread with a message for everybody. So I'll be using the cartouche deck. It's an Egyptian card deck with lots of different symbols. And for those of you that don't know, using a deck like this typically gets one in touch with symbols from the subconscious and allows for working with types of information that was not consciously accessible, but when you see it in front of you like this, you can engage with it and come to new conclusions or conclusions and understandings about yourself or a situation. So today I asked the cards about another message for the collective, a message and an energy update for what is going on with us currently, and I would like to start with that. So here are the 5 cards that came up. I'll carry them one by one so it's a lot easier to work with. Okay, so before, as I was shuffling the cards, 2 cards popped up for us, so we're going to take a look at those first. We have the Ankh, the key of life, and this is a key to understanding. Essentially, it's a symbol to opening doors and unlocking new states of awareness. And it also symbolizes the connection to the higher self, or the ability to come to new understandings and have things dawn upon us and advance in our spiritual journey. The life force is everything there is. It's the flow of life. It's our interaction with it. It's our development and growth. So it's very symbolic that this comes up here, because essentially this entire reading is going to be talking about these advancements and our connection to our higher self, and a little bit more on what that means. The air card also came up, and this is a card of communication. So it's fitting as well, because it speaks of, on any level, a type of communication. So for instance, a spiritual communication. So it's also our link to a higher self and how we communicate with this and what we do with this information. It's a movable sign, so it speaks a lot about this motion and these changes that are occurring. Now, for a little bit more in depth, we go into a star spread, which includes the nature of the question, the reason for asking, factors to consider, a solution or a potential point of conflict, and the outcome or the ideal. Now, I start with the nature of the question. In this scenario, it is the lotus. This is one of my favorite cards and favorite symbols in general, because the lotus represents just such a peaceful, beautiful, spiritual symbol. And in this scenario, it's talking about peace of mind and peace at all levels, and also talks about accessing spiritual information and parts of our subconscious through things like placidity, tranquility, and meditation. So the entire connection with our higher self is actually mediated through being calm. And this is a spiritual tenet that is spoken about a lot, where it's like when you reach a state of non-attachment or not being affected by the tides of life, then you are clear-minded enough to access the information that was within you all along, because the subconscious basically knows everything. I was just talking about this today with somebody, how you can make an intention in your mind of something that you want to do or you want to learn about, and you let it go. And very strangely, perhaps in a matter of days, weeks, or months, your mind will be working on this pattern, essentially cracking this code, and it will pop up later and be solved, or you'll be a lot closer than you were initially. And this is something I've been practicing a lot, where I'll just say, okay, so I want to understand this concept. And then I let go of my attachment of wanting to understand this concept. And somewhere on the back burner, the subconscious mind will be putting together all the information about this. And in the perfect moment, it'll come through, either through a person or through something I read, or it'll just click. And this is incredibly baffling to me still. But yes, our connection to our higher self mediated through a sense of peace and tranquility. The reason for asking or wanting to look through for a message for this was obviously here a Earth card. So we're again talking about this whole utopian vision of what an Earth might look like, or an ideal of such a thing. And in this case, the Earth card speaks of placing the physical realm in the correct perspective. So persons knowing or having remembered their connection to the Earth and its species, their knowing their place in the ecosystem, and having reverence for nature according to what she deserves, basically. And realizing, for instance, that material possessions and money are energy formats that allow us to do what it is that we want to do. A lot of attention towards ecological services and conservation, basically looking into actually what this comes down to in the end is the as above, as below principle, where anything within yourself has got a representation outside of yourself, and from the smallest thing to the largest thing, things are basically identical and connected, like fractals. So patterns that basically just expand outwards, and the furthest reach of the universe is essentially a representation of something happening at the micro level within ourselves. And realizing that the Earth is a part of you begins with perhaps even taking care of yourself. And it's something that once you start either taking care of the Earth or yourself, or looking at these little connections, we can access a universal awareness or a lot of information about who we really are, and this information can guide us. Now, the factor to consider is exactly that. It's the Sirius card. It represents universal awareness. It represents the connection to something greater than ourselves. It talks about the energy of innovation, stuff from the Aquarian type future, where we use technology to actually benefit humanity and move ourselves forwards. It's all sorts of innovations and promptings to do the very best that we can for the collective. Now, the solution, or the point of conflict over here in terms of each of us working on our own spiritual path, has conveniently come up to be the Horus card in reverse. Now, if you've seen any other readings, or if you know anything about the Horus symbol, it basically represents healing, and it's usually healing on the physical level. So when we've got it in reverse, we're talking about accidents and physical upsets and illnesses and neglect of the physical body. Now, why is this relevant to any of this? Well, this is actually very interesting, but I've found on my journey that we are conduits to a greater principle. So essentially, information comes through us, and things can be revealed to us, but they're only on the level that we are at. So it depends on our vibration, it depends on our frequency, and I've found the physical body to be the portal to this, and in fact, it was the very first step that got me more in touch with my higher self, more in touch with an inner knowing and intuition. And it began quite randomly. It was not like these steps were downloaded, like do this, do that, do this. It started with an interest in health and moved towards vegetarianism. And then over time, detoxing specific unnatural products and things like that. And I did not foresee at all what happened. I did not foresee that with changes like that, there would be a significant change to my psyche. There would be a change to my consciousness. What began happening was I started to become a more intuitive person and more in touch with things that I had no clue about previously. But there is a quote that I posted yesterday that really struck me and fits in with this over here, so I wanted to read it. So there was this spiritual leader, and she was being asked a bunch of questions, and one of the questions she was asked was concerning whether she had always been this way. You know, have you always been like this? Have you been at this level? Were you born in this condition? Now, her answer was, born? Born? When have you ever seen that an I was born? Have you ever seen an I? The I has never been and never will be born, only the body. The true divine self is perfection itself, so a development in it is not possible. Only the body must develop in order to be able to manifest higher and higher vibrations and higher frequencies of the self. And this really struck me because it's like, true, there is an essence within each of us that is untouchable, that is perfect, the way that it is. It exists in the present moment, and it is divine and all-knowing. It is our connection to it that is fallible. It is our connection to it that can be improved upon. So essentially, she says here, it's basically the body that develops in order to sustain such a connection. So the physical neglect over here also comes with things like timidity and insecurity, and perhaps a person not speaking up enough in terms of what is right for themselves. This is all about us taking our power back. And these have been the themes going around for a long time now, where it's like we are being ushered into an age of reclaiming our power, healing our wounds, even our ancestral and parental wounds, that we come into this world carrying all of this trauma, and we're here to transmutate it. We're here to turn it into the fire of life, the fire of creative expression. This here represents passion, but it's way more than that. This is a mythical symbol, something like the phoenix, which dies to itself only to be reborn from its own ashes. Now, if that is not potent, I don't know what is. Essentially, this fire here is a personal element relating to each individual, connecting them to their higher self and their own creative talents and unique gifts that they bring into this world to manifest. So with this fire, we're speaking about ardor and energy and creative expression and the energy that we have towards our creative pursuits. And sometimes in order to express ourselves and to get to where we want to go, this fire has got to purify and refine us and burn through the things that are unnecessary. So this is a giant bridge burner. It can burn away all the things that are unnecessary, leaving the pure gold behind. And that is just alchemy at this point. So the outcome that we are looking for is the voice and unique expression of each individual, liberated from the clutter in the psyche. And I think the core message here might be that starts with a respect of the body and the self, such that physical healing begins, the voice is found again, the chakras, the energy points within the body are liberated and opened up, so that the connection to our higher self, our representation of our divinity, can come through, and we can together craft solutions for a better world. So that has been the message from the other sides today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for tuning in.